Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to give you an in-depth guide on Thanos World Boss Ultimate, starting at stage 9, where the difficulty really starts to creep up, and of course where we get our first big challenge to clear with specific characters. Now, I'm going to be focusing the majority of this video on the actual different attacks that Thanos does. I want to try to show all of them to you in the first 5-minute fight, so that you can get a better understanding for how to dodge them, because I think that is the most challenging part of this fight. Unlike other world bosses like Corvus or Ebony Maw, who have specific requirements, speed characters or elemental characters, Thanos, you can pretty much use anyone. I haven't seen an advantage for either physical or energy types, but the advantage or the challenge or the really advantage that certain characters have is if they have a high base movement speed, lots of iframes, ways of essentially dodging all of his attacks, because he hits like a truck and he's unforgivable. So we're going to start off the fight here. Thanos has a few main attacks he likes to do that will persist throughout the entirety of the fight. He always does these kind of slams, he always does these kinds of lasers. The laser is one-handed right now, but it'll be two-handed later. And then he does like a charge up punch attack, more jump slams, and then he will also throw these blue debuff orbs at you. Now, previously, the blue debuff orbs in previous versions of Thanos' World Boss would strip you of all of your active buffs, including your tier 2 buff, including any support buffs you have from the battle. For example, I have Shuri's buff on my team because she's there. Now it is not the case. He doesn't actually debuff your those buffs. You can see they're still here. He only debuffs any additional active buffs that you've given yourself. So any temporary buffs from things like Jean Grey's 5th skill, so things that buff your all attack, all defense, all speed, those kinds of buffs will be taken away. But your base tier 2 passives, 4-star passives, and any team passives will stay. So those are the basic attacks that wow, he's dead. So those are the basic attacks that Thanos does in the beginning, and then as the fight wears on, he's going to exhibit a lot worse in terms of his attacks. But you essentially, what you need to do is you need to be able to anticipate these attacks, but then also the phase changes. In total, he has 5 different pseudo phase changes, or kind of unskippable moments where he will do something. Now, I'd said unskippable, but some of them are actually skippable, but it's very difficult, the circumstances. You need to use Scarlet Witch as a striker, or I guess Luna Snow, or Doctor Strange, and you need to use a very high DPS character. I'm talking Cable with his new uniform right as he hits the damage proc. So it's very difficult. I wouldn't honestly recommend or suggest that you try to build your clears to actually take advantage of skipping his phases. I would just get used to them, get comfortable, and then learn them. So the first one is happening right now. He'll do a double teleport away, and he'll summon this crisscross of purple lasers. Now, I usually just like to stand just to the upper right of his X if you have the iframe animation turned on, and this will always allow you to dodge. But you can always just find a place, because it's a very consistent pattern of crisscrossing. It doesn't change, and it just pops up once. These purple lasers don't do a lot of damage, but they do apply a debuff, and I'll show you what the debuff is a little bit later. But the debuff is particularly punishing for characters like characters like Deadpool and Wolverine. There's a fly in my face. So that's the first phase change. Thanos doesn't add a lot of attacks here, but he does add this attack. Now, this attack is where he basically just teleports and he summons additional lasers. He actually comes back before the lasers are finished, so you can get close to him and get some preemptive attacks if you've already positioned yourself out of the way of the lasers, which is something I like to do. Additionally, he will add a double-handed laser attack. Instead of using just one fist, he will now use 2 fists, and there it is. But this phase is still very easy. There's no huge buffs that Thanos has applied to himself that make the fight too difficult. The next phase change happens at the bottom of, or at the end of 15 bars, and this is where things start to get a little crazy. This is probably where most players are going to die. He's going to do a teleportation, and here you can hit him after he comes out of the teleport. but it's hard. He summons Proxima and Corvus, and Proxima and Corvus have basically 2 attacks. It's like the Proxima and Corvus from the Captain America Legendary battle. They're going to start off by doing these penetrating attacks. Anytime you see the purple lines, it means that the attack will go through iframes, it will go through your invincibility, your immunity, so you have to dodge. So I like to stand, and I got a lot of this information from Reddit. You want to stand about in the middle of the field so that it's just a straight shot, and then you just move slightly to the left or to the right. I like to move to the right because I like to go, after this, I go straight up to be as close to Corvus as possible. Right here, well, I didn't really position it well, but you basically want to run towards Corvus so that he can attack you that way, because if you have him attack down towards the bottom of the arena, it's just very hard to dodge his flame laser. At the same time, Proxima is going to send down purple spears, as you saw it trailing behind me, so you want to do kind of a reverse S type running pattern where you kind of curve your way down, and so you try and dodge as many of those as possible. If you think you're about to get hit, my recommendation would be to switch characters. I can't switch because Magneto's dead and Jean Grey still has a couple seconds left on her cooldown, but ideally you will switch away from your main damage dealing character to dodge these, so that even if your character dies, you don't lose your main damage, and then at the end of this you'll switch back to them. Now Thanos is summoning these yellow orbs to attack you. If they hit you, they will summon some elemental kind of effects to hurt you, so you want to either use an iframe skill, which will dodge them, or you want to switch when they're coming at you, which will dodge. But as you can see there, Shuri got hit, so she took some elemental damage. From this phase, he only actually adds 1 additional attack, and it's a ground pound where he uses energy waves in kind of star pattern. It's not a very difficult attack to dodge. It's got a loud audio cue to let you know. It's kind of like a sharp sound, and that will let you know that he's about to do the ground pound. It's the ground pound right here. It doesn't have penetration. It's not purple. The lines are red. So it's a pretty easy, I can just dodge it with, you know, anything, shield, any kind of animation. The next phase, I don't know why Jean Grey just suddenly froze, but she suddenly froze, not from that. The other buff that I wanted to tell you guys about, I can tell you now, is when the purple beams hit you, those purple teleportation beams, you can see there that there's an unfamiliar buff in Jean Grey's page. It's at the top there, or it's at the bottom of the buffs. It's blue, it's got a black cross, and it's got 4 seconds on it. This applies a -500 decrease to recovery rate. So basically what that means is you cannot heal at all. So if you are playing a character like Wolverine or Deadpool or X-23 and you get hit by those purple lasers, you have 10 seconds of 0 HP recovery, or even Hulk or other characters. So you have to be very careful when playing characters that heal to not get hit by those purple lasers, because it's extremely punishing. And you'll have actually a green orb that appears at the beginning of that attack if it hits you to indicate that you've been debuffed. Here at the bottom, at the end of 11 bars, he has an unskippable attack where he is non-targetable, and he summons a bunch of meteors. Now the meteors themselves are not difficult to dodge. My suggestion to you is to move as little as possible. I find that if I just stand in one corner and I move just when I see a meteor, but otherwise I stand still, it's actually fairly easy to dodge. But again, if you're having trouble dodging, switch to a character that's low priority, like a leader. Let them die, or try to dodge with them and try to survive. If they die, you still have your main damage hero. Additionally, because this stage is so difficult, a lot of players have chosen or feel that it's easier to bring 2 damage dealing characters rather than bringing a support character. Now, we are only on stage 9, which is why that's a possibility. Once you get up to 19 or possibly 29, you will not be able to do that. You'll have to do a double support, like a support and a leader, and then 1 damage dealer. So just keep that in mind. After this, he's going to have a delayed landing, so you do need to keep moving because you don't want to get hit by that. At the 11 bar mark, he adds quite a few different attacks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show them all to you. He, of course, continues using the purple laser with additional lasers. He just adds more. He also has purple energy waves. He has a beam now that will track you and goes purple, so you have to definitely dodge that or it'll kill you. We can see here the purple waves. Now, these are probably the most difficult attacks of Thanos' to dodge, because the animation for them, the visual cue, is very delayed. So, again, I would recommend switching if you can. Otherwise, you just need to move diagonally away from wherever it is. So I move diagonally, and I can dodge it. It happens always at least twice. At the end of 5 bars, it'll happen 3 times, so you do need to keep track of that. The other big attack that he does here is he'll have delayed orbs, where essentially he summons 4 or 5 orbs above his head right there, and then they will track you after about 2 seconds of a delay. Here, the best thing to do is to just iframe. That gets rid of them without any challenge. The last attack that he does in this phase, which is extremely difficult, is the one he's doing right now. He teleports and he drops a bunch of meteors on your head. They have purple circles, so they will penetrate iframes, they will penetrate invincibility, and actually I think Jean Grey's dead here, because I think I got caught by one of them, but I was able to get out of the way. So you can see that attack is extremely deadly. The other thing I wanted to point out is after 11 bars, after that meteor unskippable kind of midway point, Thanos will always have a debuff resistance, and I'll show it to you right here. It's this one right here. Purify removes all debuffs for 1,800 seconds. This means that you can no longer time freeze Thanos for the duration of the fight. You can't mind control him with Scarlet Witch or Emma Frost or any Luna Snow, so you can't really cheese the boss like you can for the rest of the Black Order, and that's definitely what makes this fight a lot more difficult than others. At the end of 8 bars, he doesn't actually add any additional attacks, but he does do another kind of a scene where he summons the Black Order, Cull Obsidian, and Ebony Maw. Cull Obsidian technically attacks you first, but it's a delayed attack, and then Ebony Maw comes in with the Fear Circles. My suggestion is either to bring them to the bottom and then move back up to the top, and then move back down to the bottom of the arena, as I'm doing now, or you can just stay close to Ebony or Cull Obsidian. I find that that's kind of helpful, but I like to move to the bottom, to the top, and then back down. I hesitated there a little bit because I had paused the game, so that's why I took damage, but otherwise I find that one is a little bit easier to dodge than the first one with Proxima and Corvus. He doesn't actually add any new attacks here. He just continues to do the same kind of savage moves that he was always doing. From here, you only have one more phase shift to worry about, and there's a little bit of lag on the screen right now because I think it's because of Jean Grey's animations and all of the particles there. But the last phase that you're going to see, if I don't die here, is, come on, Genie, is at the bottom of 5 bars. So once you get down to 5 bars, there's going to be another unskippable scene right here, and Thanos will do a double teleport, and he'll bring out these giant crisscross purple lasers, and it's going to cover the majority of the field. You can see there are 3 zones where you can dodge. There's just above Thanos, right in front of Thanos, and then right here towards the bottom of the screen. There may be a 4th actually down here at the bottom. It may not be there though. But that's it. Those are all of the different attacks that Thanos does. Now I know saying that's it is a bit of a downplay because there's a ton of attacks and the majority of them will penetrate your iframes and will basically almost one-shot you if you don't dodge them or if you don't have massive defenses. That is essentially the difficulty of this fight. Rather than making this fight about choosing specific characters, I wanted to illustrate the difficulty of the fight from the perspective of dodging everything, because that is where the real challenge comes in. Finally, I want to show you guys a clear with Iron Man. At least I want to try. I choose Iron Man because he is the character that you need for the stage 10 challenges. You have to clear with Iron Man 5 times, in addition to a bunch of other challenges in order to unlock the next set of 10 stages. We're going to go ahead and bring in... I want to do Ghost for the 70%, but I'm actually thinking of doing Ebony Maw to have the additional 20% against universal types, and of course Shuri for the extra support. Here, this is kind of your prototypical team to try to smash a more difficult boss because you've got multiple supports and only one main damage. So if Iron Man goes down because I make a mistake, we're going to, you know, have to reset. And then we're going to use strikers that I find do sufficient damage and provide sufficient crowd control, because I want the time freeze for the first part of the fight. We're also going to bring in anti-venom for the healing, and we can just finish it off with Doctor Strange. So here we go. Iron Man. The challenge with Iron Man is the iframes. He only really has one iframe, which does make it more difficult for him to dodge Thanos. I think more iframes is definitely better in this fight than less iframes. I got hit there, but we'll be able to recover before Thanos is up. We can now continue to do damage. I do pretty decent. I do about 2 bars plus when I can spike the iframe of, or the damage proc of his 5th skill with his damage proc. But the thing I like about Iron Man for this clear is the movement speed. He's got really high movement speed. I can show you guys the cheesy Corvus dodge now, and that is what it looks like. That was a perfect dodge, and I got hit there, which I didn't really want to, but Iron Man didn't take that much damage, which is actually really good. I wonder if the purple circles actually interrupt his healing from his shield, from his Infinity War uniform passive. That would be really interesting. I do get the mind control here from Scarlet Witch, which is nice because it lets me get a few shots off, and we're already down to 11 bars, but this is where it definitely gets kind of hazy, challenging, kind of sketchy for Iron Man. Keep in mind, I didn't really discuss any of the environmental hazards that you're going to face when you fight this stage, i.e. Purifying Wind, Blade Twister, stuff like that. But of course, those things are, you know, a nightmare to deal with, so you want to learn how to dodge those as well. But I just figured they're always the same for the world bosses, or the world boss ultimates, so I wasn't going to cover it specifically, but it does make them more difficult. So actually I do like starting here and then bringing him down, and then from here I wait a second and then I just start going, and that I find makes it easier to dodge the joint attacks. What are you gonna do here, my friend? Trying to kill Tony Stark. Not cool. I really don't appreciate it. We're down to 5 bars already, which is really nice. I'm just, oh, had to switch there. Didn't want to die to the motorcycle bike thing. And we've got the last phase here. He's going to do the double lasers, and I actually don't think there's no place to dodge there at the bottom. I speculated that there was, but I was wrong. So don't try to dodge there at the bottom. You will die, and you'll be mad at me. And then, oh no, that was a bad time to switch, but I was lucky enough to have my immunity skill ready, the 5th skill, and I'm also lucky enough that Iron Man has very high movement speed. I wanted to show you guys Iron Man, of course, for one, because oh, we also have the Meteor skill that he does. For one, because he's the character that you need to clear with, but for two, the movement speed. The movement speed is really important for this fight, and I just illustrated it there. So that is the clear for Thanos. The only advantage, this is the crazy part, the only advantage you have of clearing Thanos versus any of the other world bosses is when Thanos is your world boss of the day. He will drop additional cosmic cube fragments. As you can see, I got 13 as an additional reward. All other world boss ultimates that have a world boss of the day will only drop additional books or additional dimension dust. So technically, Thanos does give more cosmic cube fragments, but it's very difficult to get lucky enough to have it land on Thanos as your world boss of the day. As you can see, I did get him because he has the green star, but also then to get lucky enough to get additional rewards. I played 5 times, of course, today, and I only got cosmic cube fragments as an additional reward once, but I did get dimension dust as an additional reward 3 or 4 times. So that is the Thanos World Boss Ultimate guide. I will do a guide for preferred teams later on, but I wanted to wait until we get to a higher stage because, frankly, at stage 9, the challenge is more about surviving than actually killing him with specific characters. As long as you bring in your strongest characters and you kind of spread them out over 5 teams, you should be able to clear this. in 5 minutes if you can dodge, but you do need to dodge first. So let me know what you think of Thanos and all of his wild attacks. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my videos. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.